What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and welcome to a brand new section of this channel. Welcome to Ask the Phoenix. Oh yes, so much better than straight from the horse's mouth, don't you think? Guys, I've pussyfooted around and I've gone here and I've gone there as to how I'm going to do Q&As on this channel, because they always get a reaction, whether it's big, whether it's small, and it is only getting bigger. I think what I'm going to do is basically what I've set up this month. I'm going to do Q&As. I'm going to try and do them once a month. What's going to happen is I'm going to put up a Q&A, and on that video is where I want you to put questions for the next Q&A. Like when I put up this video today, what I want you to do is put the questions down in the box below, and like we did this month, you have until the 25th of the month, next month, so the 25th of May, to get me your next questions. At the 25th of May mark, I will take all the questions for that month, and I will take the period of time between the 25th and the end of the month to do that video. I will give myself that 5-day window, because you never know what a week is going to bring, so I'm going to give myself that window. So this is what we're going to do. This is going to be called Ask the Phoenix until I can come up with something a little more clever, because it's kind of basic, is it not? And yeah, every time I put up a Q&A, it is also your invitation to put the questions down in the box below for the next Q&A, and you will have until the 25th of the next month to put those questions in for the next month's Q&A. Does that sound like fun? I hope that sounds like fun. I'm really hoping to get this done on the regular, because you guys know I've either done a raw review or a sort of clusterfuck in the middle video once a week since, you know, the beginning of this year, and I want to have a little diversity. I want to have a little this, a little that. I will tell you right now, and you know, Alex and Preston and everybody else that's, you know, still sucking Daniel Bryan's dick can hate me if they want to. I do have a video coming up in the next couple of weeks, 15 reasons why Daniel Bryan is the next John Cena. But for the most part, it's going to be Raw reviews, pay-per-view reviews, and Ask the Phoenix. So, hope you guys are coming along for the ride. Those of you that respond on the regular, I do appreciate it, and, you know, pass it on to your friends if they want to participate. Let me know, or sorry, let them know I will be doing Q&As more regularly than I have in previous years. So, let's get into Ask the Phoenix. First question is from my buddy James Edward Russell, also known as Fear the Spear 1990. Go check him out. Also can be found in both of my groups, The Breakers and The Wrestling Realm. Links to both are down in the box below. He says, and it's a big, long run-on paragraph, dude. You could have just asked the question, but whatever. With the announcement of the rematch between Cena and Wyatt, we be seeing a lot more serious, aggressive side of John Cena recently, etc. In this, with the rematch set in stone and a more real test of John Cena's Superman character, what sort of stipulation or match type should be used at Extreme Rules? I'm thinking an I Quit match, as it would really test Bray Wyatt, bringing out the side of John Cena that we haven't seen in the feud, and we haven't seen that since his feud with Batista. In brackets, he says, Cena and Batista rule, Mark Pearson can suck it. I agree. Well, this was obviously asked before it was announced that they were going to have a steel cage match. I Quit match, obviously, because, you know, Bray Wyatt's trying to prove John Cena a liar, so, you know, he's the guy that never quits, he never gives up, so if he quitted, he would be a liar. That would be a fantastic, way to go, and I don't disagree with that whatsoever. What I would like to see, and I've said, if this goes to round 3, and yes, I'm actually booking a match that I want to see with John Cena in it, I would love to see these guys in Hell in a Cell. I would love to see these guys in either Hell in a Cell or a 3 Stages of Hell match, but not the stupid ambulance match bullshit that we had last time. I would love to see the standard regular match, hardcore match, Hell in a Cell between these two. I think it would be fantastic, and I think it would be a good tiebreaker if, say, Bray Wyatt wins the cage match that's coming up next weekend. This could be the tiebreaker, you know, because 3 Stages of Hell, you usually have one person win one person win the other, and that's how you get to the 3rd round. So yeah, I Quit match, I can totally sign on with that idea. My 2 suggestions would be Hell in the Cell or 3 Stages of Hell. Moving on. Cheney 815, and he even says, because I've always had trouble with names, you guys know this, he starts with, before I begin, my name is pronounced Cheney. Fantastic. Since the post-Mania pay-per-view match is usually comprised of WrestleMania rematches, do you think they should bring back the name Backlash to replace Extreme Rules? Yes and no. Yes and no. I think the idea that WrestleMania is the wrestling pay-per-view, and everybody that's pissed off from WrestleMania gets so angry that they throw all the rules out the window and just want to destroy each other at Extreme Rules is a reason to keep the Extreme Rules name, but the Backlash idea brings up that whole idea of WrestleMania Revenge. So I don't want to answer your question exactly. I rather want to produce a compromise. I would suggest, ultimately, if it was entirely up to me in my fan heart, I would call it Extreme Backlash. Because then you encapsulate everything. You encapsulate the fact that it's going to be all no-holds-barred matches of one kind or another, and you encapsulate the fact that it's basically WrestleMania Revenge. Okay, not counting The Rock, who do you think should have been, could have been, would have been the first black WWE champion? I don't know. I think I've answered a question similar to this before. I don't like filling in gaps like that because I don't think race should be an issue. Just like the same thing, I don't think gender should be an issue. I could say, you know, we should have Darren Young become the champion because he's gay, so we can say he's the first gay champion. I don't want one of the stipulations to somebody winning a championship to be what color they are. Does that make sense? I mean, Lashley was the ECW world champion, but that really doesn't count, does it? Farouk, maybe in his true heyday of being Farouk. If they had waited till Mark Henry was the way he was now, rather than the way he was like in the Nation and stuff like that. Mark Henry now, if he had been the first one, wouldn't have been a bad first one, would he? Like, really. What are your thoughts on NXT's Bayley? I haven't watched NXT as much as I should, because the majority of the people that I like from NXT are now on the main roster. Emma's here, Paige is here, obviously the Shield, the Wyatts. I have seen Bayley. She seems like a typical, like, sort of fun, goofy, easy to love kind of character, and she's decent in the ring, so I have nothing against her. I haven't been engulfed in any storyline that she's been involved in, so I don't have much to judge her on, but I haven't seen anything bad yet. Does that make sense? Okay. This would be more fitting for next year, but do you think there should be an anniversary commemorating the 10th... Sorry. Do you think there should be an anniversary commemorating the TLC match at SummerSlam? Yes. Absolutely. The first TLC match was at SummerSlam. The second, and in my opinion, vastly better, was at WrestleMania 17 when they really solidified it as a great thing. I don't think it's going to be recognized at either of those pay-per-views because WWE made the choice to give it its own pay-per-view, and I don't think they want to backtrack from that. It's the same thing as Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank belongs at WrestleMania, but they've given it its own pay-per-view now, and I don't think they're going to backtrack on that idea. If you want my honest opinion on that one, I think that's been replaced by the Andre Battle Royal, which is kind of shitty. Okay. Since you've mentioned that Cena-Apocalypse will never be a trilogy, will we ever see Ray-Mageddon? Ray-Mageddon. And I see what you did there, because I do refer to Rey Mysterio as the mini John Cena quite a bit. Here's the thing. I don't like Rey. I don't like the way he's presented most of the time. Rey Mysterio and the way he's presented most of the time doesn't frustrate me nearly as much as John Cena. When I made Cena-Apocalypse, it was because every video I did had venting about John Cena in it. And I had a friend of mine at the time say, dude, you vent about John Cena all the time. Take it all, put it all in one basket, get it out. And that's what the first Cena-Apocalypse was. Rey Mysterio doesn't... As much as his booking is bullshit, he doesn't inspire the same, cutthroat from me. And the other thing is, there's nothing that would be in this Ray-Mageddon that you speak of, and I love the term, just putting it out there. There's nothing that would be in a Ray-Mageddon video that you couldn't pull from the Cena-Apocalypse, because the things I don't like about Ray are all the things that he has in common with John Cena. So, no, there will not be Ray-Mageddon. I can turn around. I can put this on you. If you think that Ray deserves Ray-Mageddon, by all means, go and do Ray-Mageddon. Or if you want to create a third part of Cena-Apocalypse and make it a trilogy, and you want to do like a co-directing type thing, and that is obviously a joke, go for it. Send me the link. I'd love to see it. I'm glad that people still 2 years later, are still referencing the Scene Apocalypse video. That makes me happy, and it's not even the most viewed video on my channel, which is funny. The most viewed video on my channel is a random-ass video that Preston and I did reviewing a random list that was on WWE.com. But people always reference Scene Apocalypse, and that was, in all honesty, you know, even though it was such a negative video, it was one of the best videos I think I've ever done, personally, because I had so much fun doing it. If you could train to become a wrestler under any family, whose do you think it would be? Wow. I'd obviously either the Hearts or the Guerreros. The Hearts, you know, a little bit of Canadian bias there. You know, technical wrestling is untouchable, but at the same time, when I'm watching wrestling, there's a lot of high flying. There's a lot of the more mixed arsenal type of offense that you get from the Guerreros, like the Chavos and the Eddies and their predecessors and whatnot. So, yeah, it would either be the Hearts or the Guerreros. If you had to job to one, team with one, and bury one, who would it be? Jack Thwagger, Flaming Mayo, or Rye Bitch? I love... all my old terms are coming back. It's freaking great. Who would I team with? I would team with Flaming Mayo, aka Sheamus, because he gets booked like Ginger Cena, and I know I would win. I would job to Ryback, and I would bury Jack Thwagger. But, you know, as it stands right now, Cesaro's going to do that for me, so I guess that answer is irrelevant now. Would you rather drink a beer with Stone Cold or smoke with Van Damme? I.e., would you rather 316 or 420? Here's the problem. I don't drink beer. I'm not going to say I don't drink, but I don't drink beer. And I don't smoke enough weed for it to be a thing. I mean, anybody that wants to get me up in private message, ask me about the one time I bought pot on debit. It's a good story. But, I mean, I don't smoke weed enough for it to be a thing, and I don't think Steve Austin would appreciate very much me, you know, meeting him up to have one of these. Honestly, if it just came down to who I would rather chill with, obviously it's Austin. I would love to pick his brain. Like, there's a bunch of wrestlers out there and a bunch of wrestling personalities, like even like you get guys like Jim Ross or The Fink or Jimmy Corderas, like outside of the actual wrestling realm. See what I did there? But Austin, as far as in-ring guys, CM Punk, Triple H, somebody like Rikishi, and honestly, there's a bunch of guys that I would love to just sit and pick their brains for a little bit. Rob Van Dam isn't exactly on the list. Austin is. So if I could maybe, you know, disguise this as a beer bottle, maybe that could be a thing. Austin. I would go drink with Austin. Long, short answer to that long ramble. Do you think they should have given D.H. Smith the same kind of push in 2010 as they gave Curtis Axel more recently? Yes, because I think Paul Heyman would have had a lot more material to work with D.H. Smith's connection to the Hart family than with Mr. Perfect. You can make all the perfect jabs. Oh, I'm better than perfect, this and that. You know, I'm going to rename myself Curtis. But there wasn't much. Like, Mr. Perfect was great, fine. His father was great, fine. The Hart family, you've got a lot of wrestling lineage you could deal with there. And you know what? When the Hart Dynasty was a thing, I didn't have any problems with what D.H. Smith did in the ring. I find Ryback as boring as watching moldy paint dry. So, absolutely, switch him out for sure. Thoughts on the Championship Scramble match concept? Championship Scramble match concept was good, but it was very, very awkward as far as building stories. Championship Scramble was something that they could do, the writers could do as a in-between stories. Like, if you had a good, strong champion and you didn't know what his next actual story could be, but you had a pay-per-view coming up, you could put him in with a bunch of guys and it could just be a building situation. It's like, this guy doesn't have a solid rivalry right now, but look, he just trampled 4 other guys. It's great. And it's fun. And the only thing that I don't like about it is that it has an ending time. I like the idea of guys coming in every 5 minutes. It kind of has that Royal Rumble, but for a championship type of feel to it. I don't like that there's a cutoff time at the end. That's the only thing I don't like. I think it should be more along the line. It's, you know, it's that whoever has the belt at the end of the time. It should be like, once all 5 guys or 6 guys are in the ring, the first person to get like 3 pins in a row or something along those lines is the champion. Excuse me, guys. But in general, I think it's a great concept. I think it's fun. I don't think it's necessarily the best match concept. I don't think it's necessarily, you know, a huge building block for stories. Potentially, you could start a story in the Scramble just because it's so messy. It's same as they start rivalries from in the Rumble. You want to break up a tag team, have one partner eliminate the other in the Rumble, and there's your new rivalry. You're all set to go. It's a fun match, and it's an interesting match, and multi-man matches are always going to have that hectic, chaotic appeal to them. So, all in all, yeah, like I say, the way the match actually ends, I'm not a fan of, but the way it's generically put together is quite good. Where am I? Considering there's various wrestlers from Europe, aka Sheamus, Barrett, McIntyre, etc., do you think they should bring back the European title? Absolutely not. I think they should unify the mid-card titles the way they unified the top-of-the-line titles, because, much like I said in the main event scene for years and years and years and years and years, if there's two people that can call themselves the best, then there is no real best. And now take that theory to the mid-card. They took that theory with the WWE Tag Team Championships, and they created the unified belts that most people don't like, but I do. They can suck it. They unified the women's titles and kept the stupid one, honestly, like they did. It kind of makes me sad that Paige had to relinquish the NXT Women's Championship, because it's a better-looking belt than the butterfly belt, is it not? But they need to apply that same concept to the mid-card, because in the mid-card, it's just like, I couldn't get that one, but I can go get this one and I'll be just as good. No, if you try for that title and you didn't get it, then you didn't get it. If you try for the IC title and you didn't quite succeed, but you can get something, you know, that's supposedly just as good somewhere else without defeating that guy, it's not good. It makes it very muddy. There needs to be, in every division, there needs to be one solid, defined champion. We have it in the main event. We have it with the Divas. We have it with the tag teams. We need to have it with the mid-cards as well. That muddiness in the mid-card and that, you know, people going in two different directions is why a lot of the mid-card really doesn't have a direction. Because it's like, oh, if I can't do this, I can do that. If I can't do that, I can do this. And having one goal, having one ultimate end game goal thing you want to acquire will make everybody more it'll make everybody more competitive, both their characters, and it'll literally make the guys behind the characters more competitive in the way they perform, because if there's less belts, and it's been said for years, the less belts there are, the more valuable each belt is. Mick Foley said it one time when there was a bunch of belts. It's like, oh, Mick Foley has a belt. Who doesn't have a belt these days? And you don't want that feeling in the WWE. Do you? Anyways, he says, again, thanks for reading, da-da-da-da. Thank you, Cheney. And I know now how to pronounce your name, which is fantastic. Abel Herrera from Puitov, or Pro Wrestling is Taking Over Facebook. Probably, other than the groups that I'm actually, like, involved in moderating, the largest group of supporters of this channel and the largest group that supports my channel on Facebook at the moment, and that is very much due to Abel, and I cannot say enough how much I appreciate that. It's really, really true. He actually introduced me to Sal, who did the new graphic that you now see at the beginning of these videos, which is also good. Shout out to Abel, shout out to Sal, shout out to Puitov, and the link is down in the box below. Now, before I go on, I want to say that not only did Abel give me 30 questions, he also reposted my request for questions and challenged anybody else to say, hey, can anybody beat this? Now, do you think anybody took him up on that challenge? Wait later and see. Oh, yes. Where do you think WrestleMania 30 ranks among the greatest WrestleManias of all time? Wow. It's got ups and downs. It introduced the concept of the Andre Battle Royal, and how meaningful that is, we're going to see in the next few years as to whether it stays being a thing. It'll be remembered as the pay-per-view where one guy took up way too much of the show. It will be remembered, obviously, as, you know, the final death knell of the streak, which is negative. It'll also be remembered as the time where a lot of young guys went over. The Shield went over. Unfortunately, Daniel Bryan went over. Bray Wyatt didn't go over John Cena, which a lot of people are pissed about, but damn, he looked good in that match. Like, for real. My girl AJ came out on top. Cesaro emerged from his conflict in his own tag team to stretch out on his own and win the Andre Battle Royal with a truly fantastic moment dropping the Big Show over the top. So again, a young guy having a moment with an old guy. Really, how do I think WrestleMania 30 will be remembered? Or I don't know how it'll be ranked. I mean, everybody has their own opinion of what the best what the best WWE WrestleMania is. A lot of people say 17. If you ask me, I would say 18, but that's because I'm ridiculously biased because I saw Rock Hogan live. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will say that this is the best WrestleMania ever, or at least the most meaningful WrestleMania ever, and I can't argue with them. I don't know whether I necessarily believe them or not. Ultimately, if you ask me how this WrestleMania will be remembered, is it's changing of the guard. All the guys that are going to be awesome now going forward, the Wyatts, the Shield, Antonio Cesaro, AJ Lee as long as she comes back, and Bryan, I guess, all went over. And all the guys that are like part-timers are guys that, you know, we're all getting sort of sick of, like Triple H, like Batista, like Randy Orton, like John Cena at least looked vulnerable, which to some of us is enough of a victory. Yeah, that's how I'm going to say it. WrestleMania 30 will be remembered largely, if it's remembered accurately, as the changing of the guard in the WWE, and it's only a good thing, and it can't do anything else but make NXT look great. And if NXT looks great, more people watch NXT, more people are invested in the product all the way along, so everybody wins. It is, I'm going to say it one more time before I get redundant, it is a changing of the guard, and it is a massive step forward for young talent in the WWE. How far do you see Adam Rose going in the WWE? We've seen Adam Rose take on more than one character. Adam Rose was Leo Kruger, the hunter, and then he was Leo Kruger, the crazy guy, and now he's Adam Rose, the party guy. I like the Adam Rose character because I'm a large fan of Russell Brand, and you can't look at the Adam Rose character and think that it's not a slight ripoff, if not a tribute to Aldous Snow. His character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek, which are both fantastic movies. If you want to know my taste in comedies, go check out Forgetting Sarah Marshall and go check out Get Him to the Greek. But that's kind of irrelevant, but that's what he reminds me of. It's going to be fun. Now, I don't know how many serious rivalries he's going to get into under this realm, but I could see him coming back as Leo Kruger and being like, hey, I had to be this goofball. I had to dance for all of you just to get on the main show. Now you've got to deal with this serious shit. And then I could see him going up against somebody like Roman Reigns and then having some beast rivalries that way with guys like Reigns, Cesaro, eventually John Cena, etc. I don't want him to totally pull a Mick Foley and totally interchange roles a lot, but we've seen how drastic a change he can make, and we've seen how he fully throws himself into all the roles he can. Like, he's got a party character, realistically, so, I mean, in the beginning, yeah, I could see him having rivalries with guys like Zack Ryder and Santino Marella, but hopefully if WWE knows what they're doing, he's going to own them like shop. Even though you aren't a Bo Lever, do you agree that Bo Dallas is a good heel and has a successful run in the WWE? Bo Dallas is just creepy. The only thing I like about Bo Dallas is that his sarcastic positivity is an entire mockery of what people can't stand about John Cena. And if they really play up on that, I can get behind him. But really, I just find him obnoxious. And not obnoxious in the, okay, I'm a heel, you're supposed to not like me. It's just, get the fuck off my screen. When they took the belt off him and put it on Neville was probably one of the best moments in NXT history and one of the best decisions in NXT history. With Paige winning the WWE Divas Champion, I'm guessing that should be championship, who do you think should be the next NXT Women's Champion? And again, this is where I fall down. The two main women that I was following in NXT are in WWE now. Unless they backtrack somebody, like if they take somebody from WWE back to NXT to like play sort of a heel role and go back to pick on the kids type thing. Like if they took somebody like, I don't know, hopefully Tamina is not winning the title next weekend from Paige, because that would be lame. So if she got ticked off about her loss and went back to NXT to like quote unquote pick on the little kids, and she could like dominate their tournament, be a dominant champion down there for a month or two, and then have whoever their next great big star female wise is take out Tamina, I think that would be a cool thing. So not that I would want it to be the ultimate goal, but in the short term, give it to Tamina so she can make somebody else big. And I don't know who that would be yet, because like I say, not as familiar as I should be. Do you think The Undertaker should retire and have one more match with Sting at WrestleMania? Wow. Now that the streak is gone, now I wouldn't mind Undertaker having a match with John Cena. And James just about shit his pants, I'm sure. But the Sting thing is weird, and I've said this before. When people have been saying for 10, 15 years that they want to see Sting versus The Undertaker, but they're taking that image of Sting from 15 years ago and Taker from 15 years ago and thinking that they're going to get that. I mean, Taker's old, guys. I hate to say it because I respect the guy, and I'm sure Steph's going to smack me if she sees this video, but Taker's old, and if he's going to hang around for another year, he needs to be in the ring next year with somebody that can take care of him through the match, because obviously Lesnar could not. In case you haven't heard, and in case Paul Heyman hasn't told you recently, his client, Brock Lesnar, conquered The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. Oh, yes. I don't know. It depends how he's doing next year. It depends if he wants to. Ultimately, and I said this about the streak when the streak was, still a thing, I didn't think the streak should end unless somebody can convince me that he legitimately decided that he wanted it to end. If he wants to, and if Steve Borden signs on with the WWE and they want to do a match, I'd be curious as to how it would go, but I'm not, rampant chomping at the bit for it. I would love, just for the imagery and promos alone, I would love to see Undertaker take on Bray Wyatt. That's my thing. I don't think the Sting thing will do as much for us as fans or for the WWE as everybody thinks it will. Who do you think should be the next star to get called up to the main roster from NXT? Easy. Corey Graves or Adrian Neville. Moving on. Are you a fan of Colin Cassidy or Enzo Amore? They fall kind of flat to me. I'm just saying. I don't have anything against them, but they fall kind of flat to me. Who do you think should be world champion first? Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, or Cesaro? Wow. You would pick my 3 top picks to be the next new champion, wouldn't you? Bray Wyatt would cut amazing promos. Roman Reigns could just be a wrecking ball. And Cesaro could be a physical wrecking ball that could go on marathon matches. I would love to see Cesaro wipe the floor with Daniel Bryan in an Iron Man match. I think that would be fantastic. I would love to see Roman Reigns win the championship from John Cena, just as a fuck you to John Cena. Like I say, Bray Wyatt is a main eventer, but I don't think at this point, Bray Wyatt is an entity unto itself. I don't think he needs a title at this point. He will come to a point in his career where he deserves it. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong on that. But I don't think right now he deserves to even have it in his vision yet, because I don't think he needs it. He's taking his trophies in the form of victims. He took a trophy out of Kane. He took a trophy out of Daniel Bryan. He's working on the Golden Boy, the biggest trophy in the WWE, right now in John Cena. And I don't think the way those storylines played out, they need a belt involved. I don't think they do. He will deserve it one day, absolutely, but I don't think he needs it right now. So right now, I'm going to say Roman Reigns, just because they will not be able to resist putting Roman Reigns sooner than later up against either Triple H or John Cena. And if they're putting as much stock into him as I think they are, I think Cena eating a spear will be just as beautiful now as it was when it was coming from my hometown boy, Edge. How about that? How about a little bias to cap off that question? Oh, here we go. Abel is my buddy because we're wrestling fans and because we interact on a wrestling basis. I also managed to drag him over into another group of mine on Facebook called The Walker's Den for fans of The Walking Dead and other similar zombie, Resident Evil, vampire, all that kind of thing group. So, of course I get a question like this, because Abel is awesome. If the world as we knew it now turned into a Walking Dead-like post-apocalyptic world, what 3 current WWE superstars would you like to have by your side? Very, very easy. Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, and Willow. Yes. Do you think John Cena will beat Ric Flair's 16-time World Championship record in the next 24 months? Obviously he shouldn't. Obviously he probably will. What's your favorite Jeff Hardy match? My favorite Jeff Hardy moment. Oh, wow. Gotta be when he was younger and Taker was like American Badass Biker Undertaker, and he gave Hardy a shot at the WWE, at that point, Undisputed Championship in a ladder match, which I think was on SmackDown? It wasn't on a pay-per-view, I know that much. I'm going to say it was on SmackDown. Somebody can correct me down in the box below if I'm wrong. Not because it was Hardy's best moment, but Hardy he bumped like a fiend and kept up with The Undertaker the whole match through. In his match, he invited the champion, The Undertaker, into his realm with the ladder match concept. Taker beat him, and still Taker came back to the ring to raise his hand at the end of the day. And that was a big, it wasn't a passing of the torch, because Jeff Hardy was not ready at that point to have a torch like that passed to him, but it was an acknowledgement, it was an endorsement, and it was an endorsement from The Undertaker, despite the fact that he was in, solid biker, heel Undertaker mode. And you don't get that very often, and it was a really, I've Googled it, I've YouTubed it, I've tried to find a copy of that match in good quality that I can keep on my computer, because it is a good match, first of all, and second of all, it's a huge match. It's a huge moment for any Hardy fan. I would put that, sorry guys, I would put that moment up beside the first time he actually won the championship as one of the most important matches in his career. Okay, where am I? What are my thoughts on the Ascension? Honestly, big, imposing, physical guys, great tag team. The gimmick kind of feels like a tag team Undertaker type thing. They're doing it well. I just think it's got those overtones. Is the Shield the best? Okay, wow, hold on. Is Corey Graves a future main eventer? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's got the charisma. He's got that hint of crazy in him. And if Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose and CM Punk are any indication, Graves will be a main eventer one day. That's just my opinion, obviously, but whatever. Is the Shield the best faction in WWE history? It's got to be up there. Like, they have more impact than the Nexus, for sure, than the Core, for sure. Debatable with Evolution, but when Evolution formed, one of them, being Triple H, was already an established star, so that's not really a fair comparison. DX, you could say the same thing. I'm much more interested in a Shield match than anything the NWO did, and that's not a knock at WCW, but it's just a fact. Who are your 5 favorite wrestlers in the product currently? The Wyatt family as a unit. Individually, Reigns, Ambrose, Rollins, and Cesaro. No, not Daniel Bryan. I'm not giving you that. Did Daniel Bryan make the Yes Chant, or did the Yes Chant make Daniel Bryan? I don't think either made either. Daniel Bryan suggested the Yes Chant and put it as an idea in the fans' heads, and it's their way of participating in the show. It's like Austin doing the What chants. Austin started the What chants, and people what superstars now, and it has nothing to do with Austin. I think the Yes chants is just something that people like to do. WWE is obviously going to twist it, and Bryan fans are obviously going to twist it and say anytime they chant yes, then it's got to be about Daniel Bryan. But if you brought in, say, CM Punk versus Shawn Michaels, and the two of them, and CM Punk walked up to Shawn Michaels and said, "Hey, who wants to see me, take out the Heartbreak Kid?" And the crowd started chanting yes. Some idiot butthurt Daniel Bryan Marcus goes, "No, see, they're saying yes. They want Daniel Bryan in that match." Where it's like, no. Punk versus HBK is fine. You're fine. It's fine. Who's your favorite incarnation of The Undertaker? Wow. I like fucked up shit. If you guys don't know this already, talking about Walking Dead, zombies, vampires, and all that. I will say Ministry Undertaker is my favorite incarnation of The Undertaker just because it was creepy and evil and demonic and whatever. I didn't like the Ministry. Midian was a joke. Viscera was kind of a joke, even though he was tremendous for a big guy. The APA went on to be a great tag team. The Corporate Ministry was a fucking flop. I don't like the Ministry, but I liked Ministry Undertaker because he was, like I say, he had that demon, unhuman look to him. And of course I've lost my place again. Who do you think will win Money in the Bank this year, and who do you think should win Money in the Bank this year? A lot of people say Cesaro, and I don't have a problem with that, who I would like to see win Money in the Bank just because his style is more suited to a ladder match, is Seth Rollins. And people always say out of the Shield, Ambrose is the, you know, the firecracker, the crazy guy, and Roman Reigns is the power guy. I think the guy that gets forgotten a lot of the time in Shield matches is Seth Rollins. He needs something at some point, even if it's not a victory, he needs to have a breakout moment. And if he had a stellar standout performance in a Money in the Bank match, I think that could do it for him. What is the best finisher right now? I don't. We're kind of fucked on finishers because WWE, you know, okay, we can't do certain things to the head, we can't do certain things to this or that. I would say the most beautiful move right now is Paige's Scorpion Crosslock. As far as complete overkill, the whole Batista-Randy Orton combination powerbomb RKO, it will look good when they figure out how to do it properly. Right now, they've only done it 2 or 3 times, so they look like they're still trying to figure out how to make it work. I think if they actually do figure out how to make it work, it'll be fantastic. I also like when Roman Reigns used to have somebody on his shoulders and he'd get and that person would get the flying knee from Seth Rollins. I don't know what they called that combination of moves, but it was really, really cool. If Stone Cold came out of retirement for one match and it couldn't be against CM Punk, who would you like to see him face? If he didn't have as many neck and spine problems as he had, I'd love to see him against Roman Reigns. Who would I like to see him face? Who thinks they're a badass? I'm tempted to say The Rock one more time, but that's just for nostalgia. I think he could have interesting matches with Cesaro. I think they could have a really, really good brawl. I think purely if he went over, I would love to see him kick the living shit out of Sheamus, who likes to think that he's a brawler and tough and drinking beer and all that sort of thing. With only one World Heavyweight Championship, do you think... I've lost my place. I've lost my place. I've lost my place. And I've lost my place. Who do you think will dethrone Adrian Neville as the NXT champion? Hopefully Corey Graves, if they don't push him straight to the main event. Rank these Paul Heyman guys in order from favorite to least favorite. Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, RVD, Big Show, Curtis Axel, and Cesaro. CM Punk, Cesaro, Brock Lesnar, RVD's okay, and Big Show and Curtis Axel, I could give a damn less. You didn't put Ryback on that list, which is good because he doesn't belong there, but that's kind of funny because Axel and Ryback kind of went on there together. Do you, did I answer this question? Okay, there we go. Do you watch Total Divas? Funny story. When Total Divas was announced originally as a concept, I laughed my ass off at it. So did my good friend STEPHIE Sunshine. But we did, because we're crazy, hop on the phone, download the first few episodes of Season 1 and watch them together for a laugh. Other than that, I haven't seen a scrap of Total Divas. I could care less. Because more focus is put on the members of that show than is put on the actual members of the Divas roster that deserve spotlight. Now, is that being changed because of because of girls like AJ and Paige and other people like that? Absolutely, but it was a very slow hump to get over, and yeah. I don't think the reality show did the wrestling show any favors. Is that fair? It's also made all the wrestlers involved look like goofballs. We have Daniel Bryan on a bus telling everybody else on the bus that nobody's allowed to shit and nobody's allowed to get a boner. Yeah. Because Daniel Bryan is awesome. Would you favor bringing back Tough Enough? No, we have NXT. We don't need Tough Enough. Should WWE reform the team of Gabriel and Kidd to add another team to the tag team division and give Gabriel and Kidd something to do on television? I'd like to say yes, but right now they would probably be used as fodder for the Shield, for the Wyatts, for Ryback, for the Rhodes Brothers. At this point, because they've been off TV so long, I could see them jobbing to 3MB, and that's not something I want to see them doing. I would love, and I've said it a million times, and I'm going to say it until they take me off the airways, bring back the Cruiserweight Championship. You could have an entirely other element to your show, and all these guys that are great talents that have nothing to do would have something to do. From 1 to 10, how are you? How excited are you about Extreme Rules? I'm very excited about Extreme Rules. Evolution versus the Shield is going to be amazing. Wyatt versus Cena in a steel cage is going to be great. What I'm assuming is going to be Big E Langston versus Wade Barrett should be good. Tamina is kind of a random choice as the #1 contender for the Divas Championship, but her match with Paige, if they know what they're doing, will be a match to put over Paige. I don't really know why we're getting Rusev versus R-Truth and Xavier Woods, but hopefully that will either be on the pre-show or it'll be the first match of the night. We can get it out of the way quickly. I don't know that we're getting very many other stipulation matches other than the cage match, though, and for Extreme Rules, that's kind of interesting. We'll probably get Swagger versus Cesaro, and based on what we saw on SmackDown tonight, we might get Heyman versus Coulter, which will be just amusing. And for Extreme Rules, it's okay if we get something amusing every now and then. Who would you like to see Brock Lesnar face at WrestleMania 31? I would like to see him face Batista. I really would. What are your thoughts on Jeff Jarrett's new promotion? Well, we see how good TNA is doing right now. End of statement. If you okay, I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, so you'll have to forgive me on this one. If you one day found all the Dragon Balls and you were able to make one wish pertaining to wrestling, what would it be? Break up the writing teams. Don't have one writing team writing the whole show. And I'm assuming that's how it is right now. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Have a writing team for the main event. Have a writing team specifically for the mid-card. Have a writing team specifically dedicated to the Divas division. Have a writing team specifically dedicated to the Tag Team division. Bring back the Cruiserweight division. Have a writing team specifically designated for them. That way, everything feels important and nothing feels like filler. Fair enough? Those are 30 questions from Abel. 30 questions from Abel, who then went back to Puitov and said, "Can anybody beat this?" To which I got a question from John. And I don't know John who. I've been sort of hinted that it's John from TwitWow. I don't really know because I thought he was still under the name Vocal Aggression. So the name just says John. That's all I've got. And he, to play, I guess, a bit of one-upsmanship to Abel, asked me 31 questions. Although one of them's kind of a cheat. So we'll see that. Who is the greatest manager of all time? My opinion, Paul Heyman. Everybody will say Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer was fantastic at what he did, but his character, even when he wasn't managing The Undertaker, was completely molded around The Undertaker. Now, the prime time of managers, back when you had Bobby Heenan and Lou Albino and Jimmy Hart and all those kind of guys, all have their place in history, but I wasn't watching at that time, so I can't properly speak to them. So I'm giving you my opinion from my perspective. Zeb Coulter is amusing, and I like his character. His character hits all the notes that it's supposed to hit, but Paul Heyman adapts to every person. He adapts to every person that he manages, and he makes every match feel big. Paul Bearer was fantastic at boosting The Undertaker because they went hand in hand. Paul Bearer, when he was managing other people, always felt a bit off to me, and it always felt like I'm only managing this guy because he's going up against The Undertaker. And that was a limitation. And I hate to speak bad of the guy because he passed away and he just went into the Hall of Fame, but he was limited in that way. That's why I say Paul Heyman is the best guy. Who's the greatest wrestler of all time? You can't answer that question. That question has to go with what type of wrestling you like. If you like strictly technical, you go back to your Angles and your Chris Benoit's, for lack of a better term. If you want the sort of the high flyers, you've got basically anybody from TNA and Jeff Hardy and RVD to a certain extent. That you want the guys that are total packages. You get The Undertaker, you get Shawn Michaels, you get CM Punk. You want the hardcore guys. You've got Foley, Dreamer, Sandman sometimes, Terry Funk, etc. You can't answer that question because everybody's definition of wrestling and everybody has a different reason that they come to wrestling. So, sorry, I can't answer that. Who's the greatest commentator of all time? I will say Jim Ross because he was just genuinely good at what he did. There are other commentators that I have enjoyed more. Does that make sense? I thought Joey Styles was a blast. I'm sorry that I didn't watch ECW back in the day. But even just what he did in WWE was enough to be like, this guy is a riot. I like Matt Striker. People don't, and people think I'm weird for liking Matt Striker, but I like Matt Striker. I like Michael Cole. His whole stint as a heel commentator was horrible, and it ended horribly, but when he stepped out of that and went back into his straight commentating role, he's great. JBL made the transition from wrestler to commentator quite nicely. I also like Taz. I like Taz in his heyday when he was with Michael Cole on SmackDown. Okay, who's the greatest tag team of all time? Oh, wow. Greatest faction of all time. Greatest tag team of all time. Nobody... And I'm not going to say they're the best, so don't shoot me on this. Nobody got me going as much as the Hardy Boys, ever. In the entire time that I've been wrestling it, no tag team has got me going as much as the Hardy Boys. That's just me. For the best, for like who's like, you know, worldwide known and credibility from everywhere, you got maybe Legion of Doom. What is the greatest faction of all time? I gotta go historical on this one. NWO, I guess. They literally were half the show. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but whatever. Greatest pay-per-view of all time, I got no idea. Greatest WrestleMania of all time, I've already spoken about that. Some people say 17, some people say 19. I'm sure there are people that will say WrestleMania 30. You go back into the more classical ones, WrestleMania 1 being the first, WrestleMania 3 being the Hogan-Andre moment. It's hard to say. Favorite gimmick match of all, what's the greatest match of all time? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing greatest match of all time, because then I'm going to be here for days. What's the greatest gimmick of all time? Gotta be The Undertaker. Or, sorry, gimmick? Okay. What's your favorite gimmick of all time? Gotta be The Undertaker. Gimmick match of all time? I guess the Iron Man. Because by the end of it, the audience is as tired watching as the guys in the ring are, so you take that trip with them, if that makes any sense. What is your favorite wrestling moment of all time? I won't say my favorite, because obviously, you know, anytime, these are all favorite questions, which is interesting, because if you come back to me a different day, I would give you a different answer. But one of my favorite wrestling moments of all time is in TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17, when Jeff Hardy is hanging off the belt and Edge leaps from the ladder through Jeff Hardy and both of them hit the mat. It's by no means the most spectacular thing that's ever done, but it's just one of those, depending on who you like and depending on what you pay attention to, it's one of those things that's always been engraved in my head, and it's always been used in every highlight reel. And it's one of my favorite moments of all time. Who's better, Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock? Austin. Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels? Shawn Michaels for days, even though I'm a Canadian. Hogan versus Andre the Giant. I wasn't watching at the time, I could honestly care less. Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. I'm going to say Ricky Steamboat just because he's not Randy Savage. Yes, how does that sound? Edge and Christian is a dumb question. Trish Stratus or Lita is obviously Lita. Randy Orton or Triple H? Triple H. Sting or The Undertaker? The Undertaker. Which pay-per-view was... Okay, here we go. This is one I actually had to look up, because you guys know I'm not good with dates and shit. What's a better pay-per-view? Money in the Bank 2011 or Extreme Rules 2012? Extreme Rules 2012 was John Cena winning a match against Brock Lesnar that he had no business winning. He had just come off the biggest loss of his career, quote-unquote, losing to The Rock, and he went into Extreme Rules and took a beating from Brock Lesnar, got busted open, and beat him with one punch in the face and one AA on the steps. That was garbage. On the flip side, Money in the Bank 2011 was one of the best put together stories ever, and it's because it wasn't a story that was put together by the WWE. Punk and Cena, and I remember doing a podcast with the Lexman about this match. Punk and Cena, the rivalry, I could always watch, because it wasn't about who was a better wrestler. It wasn't about who you liked more. It wasn't about what the story was, or even the belt, really. What CM Punk versus John Cena was what the crowd wanted versus what the WWE wanted. They tried so hard to make John Cena the good guy. They did everything they could to make CM Punk look like the bad guy. Look, he's walking out on all his fans. He's leaving the company. They didn't care. And some people will tell me that it's only because it was in Chicago, but no. The crowd was universally behind Punk at this point. This was the first big time that Punk and Cena fought, and this was the beginning of that great rivalry. And the thing about that great rivalry is, because of what it symbolized to the fans, it didn't matter what WWE did with it. It didn't matter how WWE booked it. It didn't matter what they did to Punk's character, what they did to Cena's character. It didn't matter at all, because at the end of the day, Punk was our guy, Cena was the company guy. And it became a matter of, okay, today the crowd gets what they want, tomorrow the company gets what they want, but tonight we won. And it was great. And it was such a symbolic victory for the fans against John Cena and against the company, because John Cena represents all the bullshit. He represents the PG era, the no more chair shots, the no more blood, the, you know, the childish content, the G rating on some of the Raw shows. John Cena represented all of that. And you know what? Yes, the story was given to us by the WWE, but the story gave us the WWE gave us a story of us defeating them. And that investment carried through every time John Cena and CM Punk fought. Whether they won, whether they lost, the fans were invested, because the fans, in their minds, and yes, it's an illusion, and yes, it's in no way real, but the illusion is that it was the fans versus the WWE, and because it had that guttural, that every punch from CM Punk, we are winning with every flying knee, we are winning with every Anaconda Vice, with every GTS, we are winning. So, not even a contest. You'd be very hard pressed to find something in the last 5 years that fans were more invested in than that. And if anybody tells me Cena versus The Rock, I'm gonna laugh in your face. What's better, WrestleMania 30 or WrestleMania 20? Ooh. WrestleMania 20 ended with Benoit as the champion, didn't it? Just saying. And WrestleMania 30 ended with Benoit 2.0 winning the championship. Oh! I just put that together. It happened. 2 decades on the bounce, Lesnar had the worst match of the night. 2 decades on the bounce, the Lesnar match pissed people off unbelievably. I don't think 20 had as much of the turning of the page aspect that I've spoken about earlier as WrestleMania 30 did. So I'm going to go with WrestleMania 30. Ruthless Aggression era or Attitude era? It's a muddy. That's another muddy thing. People grabbed what they could from both eras. Even in the PG era, grab what I can grab. Obviously, I gravitate to the Shield. I gravitated to CM Punk when he was here. I gravitate to the Wyatts. And I mean, every era had their Santino, whether it was the Hurricane, whether it was Doink the Clown, whether it was, you know, Rosie being the superhero in training, and every era had their good points and their bad points. What really changed was what those good points and bad points were. So, to give you a muddy answer to a muddy question, I really don't know. The Dudleys or the Hardys? I respect that the Dudleys have won gold literally everywhere they've been, and they beat the Hardys by miles in that regard, but Hardys for days. Road Warriors or Demolition? So what you're asking me is the Road Warriors or the wannabe Road Warriors. And obviously I'm going to say the Road Warriors. Hart Foundation versus the British Bulldogs. I have not seen enough British Bulldogs matches to properly answer that question. Brothers of Destruction or the Mega Powers? Brothers of Destruction for days, because the Mega Powers had Randy Savage, and I could not care less. The greatest big man of all time, Mark Henry. Right now, in his prime, Mark Henry. The greatest little man of all time, depends what you mean by little man. If you're legitimately asking me about little people, I'd say El Torito's doing pretty good right now, but if you're asking about, like, Rey Mysterio type of people, then obviously, as much as I don't like him, you gotta go with Rey Mysterio. It's a thing. How would you book SummerSlam 2014? Okay. Sometime between now and SummerSlam, we're going to have Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan. It has to happen because the heat that Brock Lesnar has from beating The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania has to be used properly. And Daniel Bryan is over like Rover, even though it doesn't make any sense. So put those two things together. Have Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar not only conquer the streak, but conquer the champion. And have Brock Lesnar be this super fucking hated champion while Cesaro keeps on being awesome, keeps on being awesome, keeps on being awesome. to the point where the fans so badly want him to turn face and leave Paul Heyman that when he does, it's a great thing. And when he does, Paul Heyman is so pissed, he's willing to risk Brock Lesnar's championship to get a piece of Cesaro. And he's going to say, I'm going to send my beast Brock Lesnar after you, and I'll even put my title on the line if I have to. Have Brock Lesnar versus Cesaro for the Brock Lesnar versus Cesaro at SummerSlam for the championship. Have Brock Lesnar put over Cesaro. Boom. Star. In the making. Right there. Everybody wins. You squash Daniel Bryan. You use the taking of the streak to build immense hate for Brock Lesnar, if it's not already there, while everybody feels bad for this guy Cesaro that they want to cheer for that's stuck in the Heyman camp. And you know, you could have other stars like RVD did this past week on Raw. Come on, man, you're good. You don't need this. If you want to get anywhere in this industry, don't trust that guy. You could have people come out week after week after week. You could have guys come back. You could have Dreamer or Raven or somebody like that come and have a sit down with Cesaro and be like, look, man, we drank his Kool-Aid. It's not going to get you where you need to be. Break off. Be on your own. Be a champion. I was about to say be a star, but that doesn't work. So then you'd finally have that underswell of disappointed sympathy for Cesaro. And when he finally turned on Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman is so shocked by it that he has to send Brock Lesnar after Cesaro, and he's willing to put the title on the line to do it. And that's his first mistake. His second mistake is going through with the match. His third mistake is not coaching Brock Lesnar the way he should. Cesaro gets the drop on Brock Lesnar. He is the new phenomenal superstar in the WWE. Make Cesaro at SummerSlam. Daniel Bryan's fine. He'll be fine. Send him back to the petting zoo. He'll be all good. Number 31 is a cheat just to have one more than Abel, and question number 31 is, do you like my questions? And I say, sure. I just say, don't give me a whole lot of what's your favorite, because my answer will be different day to day. Anyways, that is it, guys. This is the first Ask the Phoenix. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys keep sending me questions. Obviously, once this is up, the next Q&A will be sometime after May 25th. Get me your questions in the box of this video down below. I will collect them. I will do the next Q&A sometime between the 25th and the end of the month of next month, and that will be the next Q&A. This has been great. John, Abel, Cheney, James, all the groups that support me, all the guys that have participated in my Q&As, both before this one and this one, you guys are all great. I've been rambling for far too long. This was about 74 questions, I think, and I think that's the longest Q&A I've ever done that successfully got posted. That's about it. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. This has been Ask the Phoenix. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. Ask me more questions. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.